My name is Ryan, and I never thought I'd find myself sharing something so personal. I never imagined my own family, my parents and my sister, could betray me so easily. Yet here I am, still piecing together how it all unraveled. It took me a while to open up about this. At first, I tried to move on, to pretend it didn't matter, to convince myself they weren't worth my anger. But the more I reflected, the clearer it became. I needed to tell this story. Not just to unburden myself, but because someone else might need to hear it. Someone else might miss the warning signs just like I did. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that those closest to you can inflict the deepest pain, and sometimes they feel no remorse. It all started after my apartment was broken into. Burglars stole everything valuable: laptops, watches, even sentimental jewelry passed down through generations. The insurance payout covered some losses, but the violation of my space left me rattled. I no longer felt secure there, so I sold the place and began planning my next move. I work remotely and earn a stable income, so money wasn't an issue, but I wasn't ready to buy a new home yet. My parents offered to let me stay with them temporarily. They framed it as a generous gesture, but now I suspect they had other intentions. At first, things seemed normal. My sister, Lisa, still lived at home, and though we'd never been close, I kept to myself. I had my own workspace, my own internet, and I kept earning. My parents knew I was financially secure. What I didn't realize was that they saw my stability as something they could exploit. It began subtly. My mom started making comments about how families should support each other. My dad would point out how lucky I was to have a roof over my head while I sorted things out. Then one night he casually mentioned that Lisa had her eye on a used car. He looked at me and suggested I could pitch in to help her buy it. I brushed it off with a laugh. No way. I didn't think much of it then, but the mood in the house shifted instantly. Lisa grew more demanding, throwing tantrums about how she deserved the car, how I was selfish, how they'd taken me in when I was homeless. My parents encouraged her behavior. The tension in the house became suffocating. I started avoiding them, staying in my room or leaving the house for hours. Then, one evening, everything changed. I came home to find my belongings scattered across the front lawn. For a moment, I thought it was a mistake. But then I saw my dad standing in the doorway, my mom behind him. "We're through with you," he said, slamming the door. I stood there, frozen, trying to comprehend what had just happened. Then it hit me, the safe. I'd kept $30,000 in cash locked in a safe at their house, a significant chunk of my savings. I hadn't wanted to leave that much money in my car or a hotel. I rushed to check, but the safe was gone. My stomach churned, my hands shook, but I forced myself to stay calm. I looked at the house, its windows dark, the people inside probably gloating. I could have banged on the door, shouted, or called the police, but I didn't. I gathered my things and walked away, acting like it didn't faze me. I wanted them to think they'd defeated me, that they'd won. I didn't go to a hotel. I went to my brother's place. Unlike Lisa, he's a decent person. When I told him what happened, he wasn't shocked. He just shook his head and said, "Sounds like something they'd do." Then he handed me a phone number. "Call this lawyer." "Do it now." I didn't hesitate. A week later, my phone lit up with 51 missed calls. My parents, Lisa, even distant relatives I hadn't spoken to in years. They'd received the news, and they had no idea what was coming next. The calls kept coming. I let them go to voicemail at first, watching as my parents, Lisa, and obscure family members scrambled to reach me. I knew why they were freaking out. They thought they'd gotten away with it. Now they realized they'd misjudged me. The lawyer had moved quickly, sending a legal notice demanding my money back. If they didn't comply, we'd take it further. I had proof, bank statements showing where the money came from, text messages with my mom referencing the safe, even a grainy security camera photo of me carrying it into their house. They had no way out. On the second day, my mom left a trembling voicemail, asking why I was doing this to them. She reminded me how they'd sheltered me when I was desperate, how I was overreacting, how family doesn't behave like this. That last part almost made me laugh. Family doesn't do this. What did she think they'd done to me? Then she admitted something stunning. They couldn't return the money soon because they'd already spent most of it. I wasn't surprised. I'd seen Lisa's Instagram, where she'd posted a photo of her new used sedan worth about $15,000, captioned, "Finally living my dream." They hadn't just taken my money. They'd blown it immediately, thinking they were untouchable. I gave them until the end of the week to return the money or we'd go to court. That's when things got nasty. My dad called the next day. When I didn't pick up, he sent a lengthy text about how I was destroying our family over cash. Lisa sent a flurry of messages, each more desperate, claiming I was ruining her life and that she'd barely gotten anything from the money, as if that made a difference. Then I got a text from an unknown number. "You don't know who you're dealing with? Drop the lawsuit or else." I chuckled. Were they seriously threatening me? I showed it to my brother, who rolled his eyes and said it was probably Uncle Rick, our dad's older brother, a guy who thought he was intimidating but was really just a loudmouth who made everything worse. I didn't respond. I forwarded the message to my lawyer, who said it only bolstered my case. If they wanted to play dirty, I was prepared. The next day brought a twist. My lawyer called, sounding amused. He'd looked into their finances and found something intriguing. My parents hadn't just used my money for Lisa's car. They'd also paid off a defaulted loan they'd been dodging for months. They hadn't just stolen from me for Lisa's benefit. They'd been in financial trouble long before I moved in. It all made sense now, their sudden hostility, the pressure to help out. They hadn't taken me in out of love. They saw me as a cash machine. But now they were in deeper trouble. If they thought I'd back off, they were about to be stunned. When the deadline arrived, I expected either the money or a court battle. Instead, something even better happened. My lawyer uncovered more details about their finances. Their debts weren't just overdue. They were enormous. Loans, unpaid bills, a credit card they hadn't touched in over a year because it was maxed out. The $30,000 they stole wasn't just for Lisa's car. They'd used a big portion to settle a pressing loan. They weren't just greedy, they were desperate. And they decided I was their way out. It all fell into place. My mom's constant, family supports family remarks, the push for me to buy Lisa's car, their anger when I refused. They hadn't taken me in out of kindness. They saw my stability and decided to exploit it. But they underestimated me. On the final day before filing, my dad called. I answered, curious to hear his excuse. He didn't apologize or admit fault. Instead, he ranted about how I was stressing the family and ruining their reputation. He preached about loyalty, respect, and doing the right thing by dropping the case. Then he let something slip. They'd consulted a lawyer who told them they had no defense. I knew they were cornered. I stayed calm, gave him one last chance to return the money, and hung up when he kept arguing. Less than an hour later, Lisa started texting. First, she insulted me, calling me a terrible brother, accusing me of destroying her life over a car. Then her tone shifted to panic. "Are you really going to court? It's just money, Ryan. You earn plenty. Why are you doing this to Mom and Dad?" I ignored her, let them squirm. That night, my brother and I grabbed drinks. We laughed about how ridiculous it all was, how Lisa and our parents had turned returning stolen money into a crisis. As I sipped my drink, my brother's phone pinged. It was our dad texting. "Tell Ryan to check his bank account." I opened my app, expecting a trick. But there it was, $30,000 wired to me. No explanation, no apology, just the money. I should have felt relieved, but something seemed off. The next morning, my lawyer called with an update. He'd traced the payment source. My parents hadn't used their own money. They'd drained a joint savings account with Lisa's name on it. They didn't take accountability. They threw Lisa under the bus. Now she was spiraling. Her messages flooded in, but she wasn't angry at me anymore. She was furious at them. "They used my savings to pay you back? I didn't even get all the money and now I'm broke. You set this up, didn't you?" I didn't reply. I just watched the drama unfold. My mom texted, trying to play mediator, saying we needed to come together as a family now that things were resolved. My dad sent a single message. "Time to move on." Meanwhile, Lisa was unraveling. I'd been furious with her for days, but now I was almost entertained. They'd turned on me because they thought I was expendable. Now they'd done the same to her. Karma had moved faster than I expected. But I wasn't done. Getting my money back should have been the end, but it wasn't. By forcing them to repay me so quickly, I'd accidentally triggered something bigger, something that would flip their world upside down. 3 days after the payment, my cousin Emma called out of the blue. We rarely talked, so I knew it was serious. She got straight to the point. "Did your parents pay you back?" I was caught off guard. "How'd you know?" She gave a bitter laugh. "Because they borrowed from everyone in the family to do it." I was stunned. Apparently, they didn't have the money, so they'd begged relatives with a sob story about temporary financial woes. They'd borrowed from the worst people, including Uncle Rick, the same guy who'd threatened me. Now they were in serious trouble. I checked my phone, and the family group chat was chaos. My mom was being called out by aunts and uncles demanding their money back. My dad tried to deflect, saying it was a family issue and they needed time. No one was buying it. And Uncle Rick, he was beyond angry. He'd lent my dad money months earlier for business expenses that mysteriously disappeared. When my parents came back for more, he gave them the loan only because they swore they'd repay it quickly. Now they couldn't, and he was threatening to expose their debts, lies, and spending habits. He even hinted at ruining my dad's reputation in his industry. My dad panicked and called my brother, trying to pull him into the mess. My brother didn't just ignore him, he went to their house to confront them. That's when he dropped a bombshell on me. "You know they screwed me over too, right?" I was floored. He'd never told me. "Back in college," he said, "I saved a few thousand for a car. Dad offered to invest it. I trusted him. He lost it in some sketchy deal and acted like it was my fault, said it was a lesson in responsibility." I was speechless. I knew our parents played favorites, but I hadn't realized how badly they'd hurt him. It explained why he kept his distance, why he never relied on them. They'd betrayed him long before they betrayed me. But here's the twist. My brother hadn't forgotten. He'd been biding his time, waiting for the right moment. And now he saw it. The next day, he called every family member our parents hadn't yet borrowed from. He told them everything, how our parents stole from me, cheated him years ago, and manipulated relatives with fake stories. Overnight, our parents became outcasts. No one wanted anything to do with them. An uncle even called them con artists to their faces. Meanwhile, Lisa was still losing it. After learning our parents used her savings to repay me, she demanded they pay her back. But with their debts piling up, they treated her the same way they'd treated me, ignored, dismissed like she was the problem. The irony? She called me begging for the money back. I let it go to voicemail. Then for kicks, I texted her. "Family supports family, right?" She didn't respond. By then, my parents had hit rock bottom. They'd borrowed money they couldn't repay, trashed their reputation, and alienated everyone. They were alone. My brother and I were done with them. The family was done with them. They'd spent years treating people as disposable, and now they were the ones discarded. It's been some time since everything went down, and a lot has changed. I'm still grappling with how fast their world fell apart. Not mine, though. I'm doing better than ever. I moved into a new apartment a few weeks ago, and it's the best place I've ever had. I took my time picking the perfect city, the perfect building, and now I have a real home. No more tension, no more drama, no more being viewed as a wallet. Life is calm, almost too calm. I didn't realize how much weight I was carrying until I let it go, but even with the progress, there's a lingering emptiness. My parents and Lisa feel like strangers now. Maybe they always were, and I just didn't see it. Now for the unexpected twist. A few days ago, I got a call from an unknown number. I usually ignore those, but I picked up. It was Lisa. Before I could hang up, she blurted, "I moved out." I froze. That wasn't what I expected. Apparently, after everything, our parents turned on her. They fought nonstop about money, and when she confronted them about draining her savings, our dad told her to be grateful for their help. Sound familiar? She finally saw they didn't care about her either, just what she could do for them. When she became a burden, they discarded her. So she left with no money, no plan, just crashing with a friend. Then she asked the question I knew was coming. "Can we talk?" I sat there, staring out my apartment window, thinking about everything she'd done. Then I told her the truth. "I don't think so, Lisa." She was quiet for a moment, then said, "Yeah, I figured." And she hung up. I don't know how she's feeling now, and I don't think I care. Maybe one day I'll let go of the resentment. For now, I'm just done. I thought that was the end of it. I'd moved on, left the past behind, and focused on building a better life. But life has a way of throwing curveballs. A few days ago, I got an email from my dad. At first, I thought it was spam or another guilt trip. But when I opened it, I realized it was something else entirely, a job application. I had to read it 3 times to believe it. My dad, the man who threw me out, stole from me, and turned the family against me, was now asking me for a job. For context, my online business is doing better than ever. I've grown it, hired a small team, and taken on bigger projects. Somehow, word got back to him. His email was written like we were old colleagues, not father and son. No apology, no mention of the past, just a formal pitch about how he was seeking new opportunities and thought we could move forward together. He even attached his resume. I stared at the screen, cycling through disbelief, anger, and grim amusement. Then I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was pathetic. The man who once accused me of destroying the family over money was now groveling for a job like I was some corporate savior. I didn't respond. I forwarded the email to my brother with the subject line, "You'll get a kick out of this." He called me, laughing so hard he could barely speak. He said things had only gotten worse for our parents since I cut contact. The family had shunned them, debts were mounting, and Uncle Rick was still demanding his money. They were desperate. So my dad, who always acted like the smartest guy in the room, was reduced to begging me for a lifeline. I didn't reply to the email. I marked it as spam and went on with my day. That's when it hit me. I didn't care anymore. Not about revenge, not about proving anything, not about winning. They weren't my problem. And that felt like the real victory. This whole ordeal taught me a harsh truth. Some people only value you for what you can offer. The moment you're no longer useful, they'll toss you aside without hesitation. But the other side of that truth is this: walking away is power. I've built a life free of their drama, their manipulation, their toxicity. And now I'm free. As for my parents and Lisa, they're still floundering, blaming each other, drowning in the chaos they created. And me, I'm done.